Well, good morning, everyone. And thank you for joining us in this first event of our Interdependence series, focusing on spiritual responses to the ecological and social challenges of our world. We began by expressing our gratitude to the land, the four directions and elements, the air, water, sun, moon, and to the Duwamish, Suquamish, Muckleshoot, and Tulalip tribes who have cared for this region for over 10,000 years. We can't change the colonial theft, the destruction of the environment, or the genocide that has taken place since first contact 5 centuries ago. What we can do, though, is face this truth and move forward with wisdom, compassion, and justice. We are greatly honored to have Yangsi Rinpoche with us today. But before I introduce him, please allow me to introduce myself and the co-organizers for this series. My name is Jordan Van Vost, representing Dharma Friendship Foundation. I'm joined by Iris Antman and Ken Yasuhara from the Climate Action Group of Seattle Insight Meditation Society. Iris will be my co-host today, and Ken is standing by as our tech support person. We live in a time of social upheaval and ecological breakdown. Climate scientists warn that our planet is rapidly approaching ecological tipping points that, once passed, could so radically alter conditions on Earth that 90% of all life may go extinct, including humans. These threats to our world have been known for at least 50 years, but our responses have been crippled by inaction, greed, and denial. We need to talk about these urgent challenges so that we can face them together and act wisely to protect life. Each month, we will host speakers to facilitate this conversation, offering a variety of Buddhist and Indigenous perspectives. Now, I have just a few requests regarding Zoom protocol. We invite everyone to turn on your video if you like to build as much community connection as possible in the virtual COVID world we're all affected by. However, if you need to move about for any reason or others are moving around behind you, please turn off your video at that time to avoid distracting other participants. After Rinpoche's talk this morning, you may post your questions in the chat, and time permitting, we will invite you to unmute and ask your question. If you're having problems with Zoom, please reach out directly to Ken in the chat. It says Tech Support Sims host, and he will assist you as soon as possible. This event is being recorded and will be available later on the DFF website. Now, it is my great honor to welcome Yangsi Rinpoche. Rinpoche was recognized as the reincarnation of Geshe Ngawang Gindun, a renowned scholar and practitioner from Western Tibet. Rinpoche trained in the traditional monastic system for over 25 years and practiced as a monk until the age of 35. In 1995, he graduated with the highest degree of Geshe Larampa from Sarajay Monastery in South India. He then completed his studies at Gyume Tantric College, and in 1998, having the wish to benefit Western students of Buddhism, Rinpoche came to the West to teach throughout America and Europe. Rinpoche serves as the spiritual director of Ganden Shedrup Ling Buddhist Center in San Juan, Puerto Rico, Dharma Friendship Foundation here in Seattle, and Tara Buddhist Center in Nashville, Tennessee. In 2005, he founded Maitripa College in Portland, Oregon. Rinpoche is the author of Practicing the Path, a commentary on the Lamrim Chenmo. Welcome, Rinpoche. Please share your thoughts on wisdom and compassion in the context of these challenges facing our modern world.
Thank you very much, Jordan. Thank you. And, first of all, thank you very much for organizing this, open discussion about the climate change. And although I'm not necessarily expert how things the solutions, but as your request, from my side with a pure intention. I will trying to, just some of the things that maybe I can share. uh, so for me, I think late 70, I moved from Nepal. Maybe I was like 8 years old or 9 years old, something like that. And then moved from Nepal to South India, which is where the three great monasteries. And it is a agriculture. The monasteries are on the kind of like the Tibetan settlements. All they are function based on, the livelihood is agriculture. And at that time, the first thing I remember kind of noticing myself, I have no idea what's happening, but the rain, the rain each year is become less raining. The first one I came here, the rain was very kind of like a long term and it's very strong. But each year, kind of the rain, kind of like a less raining. It's very kind of like at that time I have no particular idea. And also around that monastery area, there's a river, small rivers, and I used to go in swimming in the river. Small another monks, and we really enjoyed the swimming. Then every year, slowly, river is getting, is accumulated lots of sand, and suddenly there's no way to swim. It's just like a very thin river. A river is kind of like there's a two rivers kind of goes like this, and both are kind of like now I think it's totally dry. There's nothing left. But at that time, noticeable. We used to go to swimming, and then it's like kind of rivers kind of naturally dying and kind of disappearing. um, and we don't have a specific idea, but the change is kind of witnessing. Myself. Uh, and then now, last year, in the Portland area, we have this so much fire that I need to run away because of the fire and the smoke. Um, lots of people need to kind of get out from because the air quality was really. Anyway, these things all happening due to the extreme weather. The extreme summer. As you know. So now, then in 2000, that was in 2019, and then 2020, as we know, we all, due to the COVID situation, in COVID, basically there is some connection with a kind of disregarding nature, and due to the COVID, we are still in this period. So I feel this COVID situation is maybe we should see as a drill in terms, if the climate crisis becomes very serious, that's what we went through right now. This situation can be like 100 times more serious. So we need to see, I think, we need to see, this is like kind of like the drill, this COVID situation that we are, like everybody need to make masks, cannot go out as a normal, as how we used to do. And, at least all these things may be in a serious climate issue arise. Maybe this will be 100 times that we cannot breathe the air that what's happening. And maybe in this COVID situation, we have some solution. We are looking for some solution. There is something in the tunnel, like within the year, there will be some kind of solution. So it gives even though it is a lockdown and it's kind of difficult, but there is something that within the year, something solution can happen. But then, with the climate change issue, when it becomes very severe, and then maybe there's no such a things that we can turn back, and within the year, or maybe it will be maybe for quite long, so therefore I think uh, we need to see um, this situation, that what we went through, although this is not necessarily directly related with the climate issue, but this what we went through, this is a kind of like a taste of a severe climate change happens in our this blue planet. What we're going to happen, what's going to happen. So maybe this is what we went through is a drill or training or taste of a climate change. Uh, so um, so now okay, early time when I was in India, I kind of like that. We drink any water, you know, and then I hear this kind of some water you're not allowed to, you cannot drink. It's not healthy to drink, and early time when I was young is difficult to understanding. But for example, now when things get worse and worse, once we have a water starting to drying, plus the things water that we have not is not suitable to drinking. So again, um, these things are like then air that we breathe, we're not is not clean, and so on and so forth. So now again, this whole thing is from the Buddhist perspective, yeah, of course, uh, collective karma, we all are responsibility. I think is not only the politician, not only I think they play a very important role, the big greedy companies, but in a way, I think we all become responsibility. I think in a climate issue, only the degree. Otherwise, I think we all are part of the who. I think this is. I think so. One thing is important. We blame and point a finger for several people, and of course, they have creating lots of. In the bigger picture, I think we all have, the lifestyle, the things that how we live, things the society how is it functioning, and in a way, I think I feel like yeah, the energy consumption, and it is in a way we also until we don't feel our own self is part of the also issue when we have starting to blaming for something. I think there is some strong basis to point finger, but then I think that makes I think I'm right, they are wrong. I think that makes even we engage, actively engage. Uh, I think there will be some kind of aggression. you know, uh, they are doing wrong. I'm the right. So I think, in a general speaking, from the collective point of view, I think this we human all kind of like caught into this wave of uh, consuming, a wave of something that there's a and somehow it is. I think there is our individual footprint for we all have our own footprint for contributing for the uh, this climate issue. So therefore, I think this understanding, acknowledgement, from my point of view, I think this is I think important that until we don't acknowledge our own self, you know, we are driving, and there's so many things that then we might think like how we're going to live. So fundamentally there is a difficulty. There's not one solution. There's no one solution. Even the solution we're bringing up, uh, I think, uh, it covers left side, but it creates some kind of in the right some problem. So uh, climate and this so my uh, so maybe the question comes, I think, the fundamentally first there is a sense of a uh, individual acknowledgement, the, and also uh, that acknowledgement, if we come here and if we have that, like I'm also having footprint for creating this uh, damage into the climate change. There can be different level, not bad, as is a very relative. So that kind of awareness, I think, is important, very important. Then of course, then uh, into the how we do this. I think now how we now one thing is that we are not totally, I think it's not totally doomed. I feel like there's a lots of younger generations, and obviously, you know the the future planet is, they have to take a responsibility. So there's a naturally, I think, younger generation have a lots of interests and pay attentioning. And I think this is a really, really, really wonderful, uh, wonderful, like approach, wonderful, that kind of hope, and there's one of my student, I used to travel, before COVID, and the student will tell Rinpoche, you're flying too much. It's not good. Anytime you fly, this create this flying is not good. So when I was in Europe, I just go in the mostly in the train, trying to not to fly. I think there is a strong point. But then again, here, I think uh, under the name of the progress, uh, somehow I think in from the bigger picture, I think we are setting up our own self into the direction of a disaster. So again, here we need to finding really balance. Um, fundamentally, I feel very strongly the changing the lifestyle. Uh, changing the lifestyle, I think, comes through the, um, again, fundamentally, you need to come that state of a mind, need to be more calm state of a mind. Sometimes I think this whole climate issues and activisms so much come through understanding and through the thought, through kind of like from the intellectual through the conceptual. And that's really good. But then once individuals not really calm their mind, uh, just the logic and reason only, and then trying to engaging, I think that may create counterproductive. Although you are activism, you are creating this kind of noise, but then with the anger and with the frustration, so now I think there's not necessary to have a answer for everything, but as an individual, what we can do, for me, I think one thing, acknowledgement, myself have creating this footprint, this taking our own individually responsibilities and not having view of I'm right and they're wrong. I think this is I think that makes I think our engagement have a much more better awareness and more better, mm, not coming through based on a right and wrong. I'm right and they're wrong. It's coming through. Yeah, we all are. They will be more embracing. So I think the approach I think is very important for this climate. So not creating chain reaction. I think this is a fundamental. I think somehow. Uh, Human are sometimes distracted with the simple things and not able to open their heart for bigger picture, and the simple things distraction into the reactions, and that get waste lots of time. So I will. So I think even a dialogue, even a conversation, I think. Uh, I think only option is through uh, I mean, like through nonviolence, through I think that everything that is the conversation should not be coming blaming each other. The conference should not be coming blaming each other. Any kind of conversation kind of coming like a kind of like a taking responsibility. Includes everybody. Is not like sometimes maybe the activism feels strong feeling of they are wrong. And yes, I think, yeah, they are wrong. And also, I am wrong too. So, not that I think when we have that kind of like a feeling, then I think natural human reaction is come to kind of like a jumping, and that kind of aggressiveness naturally happens. So, fundamentally, I think um, uh, acknowledgement, I also part of this problem. And based on that kind of an equal field, and then uh, I think the most important part is for me, I think immediate what we can do. I think this is, I think, one of the important question. I think immediately I feel planting tree is the most immediate important. We need to have a movement about planting trees, and that's I think in the that's I think so fundamental important. And then there is a uh, uh, and planting tree, and plus I think is a very I feel very important to engage in this kind of rehabilitation of the land. uh, there is desert transforming into the greenland, and that kind of dry place. Once upon a time it was a totally green, then due to the human kind of like a consumption, it became totally dry, all valley. And then some scientists came and engaged into the rehabilitating the land. And then again the bird coming back, the water coming back, the rain coming back. I think they have to have I think the momentum of an engagement of a rehabilitation of the land, a rehabilitation of the water, and the planting tree. These things are, I think, what we can do immediately. I think. Uh, Otherwise, mm, now, now, I think fundamentally how we in. I think there's basically two things. One thing, I think this energy, this driven energy for the activism, uh, I think ideally, I think we should spend 50% of this activism energy into planting tree, rehabilitation of the water, rehabilitation of the land. I think this is one area. This is one area. I think that energy. I think yes, we need to have a policy changing and all this. Uh, um, like I think long term we have to re re redesigning the way we live, the redesigning way the city planning, way this kind of like a very the the I think you have to have a long term, like a something that as an individual, as a city, as a town, the people will put less carbon print footprint in the atmosphere. Like how we can create that kind of. I think you need to so. Uh, And I think one time Samdong Rinpoche, one of the great master, he came to give a talk in Mitripa about, I think it's about environmental. He mentioned, I kind of remember, this planet have enough resource to provide needs of the needs of the 6 or 7 billion people in this planet, but this planet don't have enough resource to provide the needs about one individual's greed. So that's, I think, it tells whole bigger picture. So I think uh, the it is so unfortunate, you know uh, making money becomes a fundamental, uh, and and that becomes kind of the vision of the country, and then because of that, uh, finding a way to polluting, everything what we eat, even the vegetables, even the milk, the water, like uh, now we have, of course, now we have this kind of organic and non-organic, and in the early time when I think in 1989 I came in America just for a short period, and then I saw the vegetables and kind of like looking very beautiful, green and red. And I didn't know the details. Like even the meat, I heard they put color to make it more red looking. And that time I don't know, but now like it's so unfortunate. And then although the FDA have so many rule and regulations, but then how we know these things are approved? Uh, uh, how they can prove this food human can eat? So uh, so my thing is, but when I taste that time, it doesn't taste good. It don't have a taste. It very good looking, shiny looking, but no taste. And then I went back to India, and then when I arrived in Delhi, the the food taste was much more stronger. Maybe at that time, maybe the farming, the agriculture is not as polluted as it today. So there's a more kind of like a better quality. Mm. Then um, the greedy culture comes in a pervasiveness all over the world, and then it's then they know how to make a look good. In nature, it is not good. So anyway, now uh, now fundamentally, I think the fundamentally, when we say life change, way we're doing, I think at the end, I think we need to the the way we educate, I think need to be changed. I think that the way we educate, uh, although the younger generations, younger generations are much more pay attentioning. That's really wonderful, but we don't want to be they become angry for angry young generation. And that'll be too sad. But they pay attention, and it's wonderful. But not only young generation, but all of us, whatever we engaging, I think with the anger, with the frustration, I think it becomes all the action what we the energy what we put it, I think is counterproductive. It doesn't help anything. So therefore, I think uh, way of engaging, I think we need to way of engaging need to be looked at it more carefully. you know so uh, so I think uh, so therefore mind is the part of the solution. We are thinking only the corporation and only the way of doing things. I think ultimately, and the mind is ultimately our human mind is to blame. Ultimately, our human mind is the solution. I think, you know, um, I think we need to. It's not philosophy. It is not spirituality. It's just that I think the practical. I think until mind, our human mind, a little bit change. Uh, you know, less greedy, um, more awareness. I think that's the ultimate solution. Uh, so, um, I think that mind training, mind training. Um, so there is a creating this kind of like a, uh, kind of reasonable way of living, or I heard one in a Scandinavia, one place, one documentary I saw, and if you are extremely rich, then there's a way of saying, what's problem with you? If you are like a billionaire or something like that, they think you are imbalance. You have some psychology problem. What's wrong with you? So I think this is a I think these things happens because like a, you have a you, your needs are there, then you are still kind of like a going beyond. It's like what's problem with you? I think it's very 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 good, very interesting. you know it's not embracing, and it's not like a kind of like a so anyway, I mean, like lots of these days, some younger generation people who are becoming kind of like this kind of very wealthy, but it doesn't seems like, from my opinion, it doesn't seems like it's about the number. It just looks like their passion, and they somehow at the side they get this kind of like a rich. But anyway, I think uh, without greedy of numbers and the money, I think human creativity, driven energy, creativity. I think this is still, uh, I think this kind of like energy still can create it. I think this is, I think, the most important. Uh, we human are nature of energy, and the energy, how we can create this utilize this human energy into in the in the balance, in a balanced way to creating. So uh, So so this kind of like a human frustration, human frustration is in a way, frustration is also good. If we're overly frustrated, I think that's not good, obviously. And a certain extent, frustration is kind of become condition for motivation. But then I think the answer for our frustration is saying, I'm right, they are wrong. I think this will be counterproductive. So I think we all not necessary to have the same idea and same approach, but that's okay. That's that's part of the human existence. And if we come up with a my idea is the best and I'm right, they are wrong. So this is uh, I have one of my friend in Puerto Rico, and he have relatives, and they all give him advice, and all advice are done in good intention. All advice are different advised, and he cannot apply all advice, all them good, but if he apply all the advice, it may becomes a disaster. So 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 he can only take one of the advice and to implement in his life. But then another his friends will say like, why you don't take my advice? Then he said, I cannot take everything, I cannot do everything. So anyway, my point over here is frustration. I think that can we be, I think the frustration with the awareness, like frustration is some kind of like a internal energy kind of waking you up, and that energy channeled by the awareness, compassion, um, and I think these are I think the important. Then I think that climate activism should have a similarity. I think it's like this climate issue is the individual who really climate activism, people who are speaking for that, I feel like some kind of like a similarly like bodhisattva as a kind of like a shouting for the suffering of samsara. I think it's not about themselves. And the climate is this issue is like a really really like a bodhisattvas. It's not about my things. It is about how we all going to live. Is a threat of what we all how we can survive. So there is a really good uh, very very wonderful, how you say, vision. uh, but if now Now, I think there is awareness need to be developed. Approach need to be changed. Its approach becomes I'm right, they're wrong. This approach will be not going to work, counterproductive. So therefore, I think, and then obviously, sometimes we human likes to see change immediately, uh, but I feel that energy, that frustrated energy. As I mentioned earlier, I think planting lots of tree and engaging into the land rehabilitation. And I think this documentary, the Kissing the Ground or something like that, this documentary, it's a really wonderful. There is a in the net. There's a really wonderful way of understanding the the how much the different chemicals are killing our ground, the earth that way we are standing. So these things, awareness, and I think there's so many way of engaging. I think not only the going out and fighting, not only that activism have a, there's so many energy that we can distribute for making better future. And uh, like then when I like maybe 2018 I went back to South India. I was traveling there, and now because they are not doing too much agriculture, now they plant all the land with a tree. There's so much tree now. They plant so many tree, and because of the fields, before there was a planting corns and stuff like that, but then they slowly changed. Now they're planting lots of tree, and it changed the atmosphere, so the air quality is much better. That even they say like sometimes the rains and the birds and the things are like more and more. Yeah. uh, so uh, so it is a they plant so many trees. It totally changed the landscape. It's so beautiful, so refreshing. So anyway, uh, the land rehabilitation looks like a really, I feel, one of the solution from my point of view, limited understanding. Planting tree, land rehabilitating. They have this kind of scientific method, and creating more green, more green, more green, and that invites lots of like a bee and birds, different insects. I think it's amazing. Simple they're doing, and it can bring so many natures back. So uh, so I think this is a, we as a all human being, I think this is, I think, engaging in these things. And 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 because of the planting tree and the land rehabilitation, the rivers came back. In that documentary, I forgot what the documentary was. Once upon a time there's a river, and then totally dried. Then they did land rehabilitation, and the river started coming back. So it's just so wonderful. So rehabilitation is a fundamental. When you say lojong, lojong is mind rehabilitation, because mind is so much toxic with three poisons, and the lojong is kind of rehabilitating our mind, and now we need to rehabilitate our land. So that's, I think, there's something I feel like, and then in the when we becomes too uh, I think I think we human need to channel our energy. That's the fundamental. If our energy is blocked and then hitting the same wall again and again, then it becomes really nasty. So so I think when we have this activism energy, then we need to channel the energy for here and there, like many areas, for making better, to you know to transfer this climate change problem. There's a Each individual can channel 4 or 5 different areas to do not only one thing and doing like they are wrong, and not only one area. I think we channel many different areas, then I think definitely uh, can be much more productive, and as an individual one person can produce. And then I think one thing is that really we need to be careful with the water, like I think how we how we how we uh, how we use our water, so it's like for me sometimes uh, is some in this world people have not enough to drink, and we flush countless water, and wish sometimes just kind of like it was I'll tell one story. One time I was in Nepal, and there's a one Iranian. She's from Iran, but she studied Buddhism, and she came to my parents' house, and in Nepal, in that time, the tub water, they just kind of let go, and she said, please, can you stop that? I cannot see like this, though you're losing that water. And that time, we don't, and like the water is kind of like a, but she knows the pressures of the water because she came from the Middle East. So now again, now for us, uh, I think we as an individual person, I think how much we need to pay attention to how much we use the water, even the shower and everything, a little bit more pay attention. I think that what we can do now, that's, I think, is really important. And the water thing is a really, 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 I feel. I One time I used to take a shower and I have a bucket, so the water stayed there, and I use that water for the toilet also. Uh, so I think uh, then then creating garbage, I think, is very sad. Accumulating too many garbage. Uh, we need to reduce. We as an individual person creating less garbage. Like and then I think buying less things from that in the plastic is so unfortunate. Uh, so in Portland here where I live, the recycle and compost and then the garbage, recycle and the compost, they come to pick it up every week. Garbage, they will come to pick up every another week. So if you create more garbage, it will stay with yourself for one more week. Very smart choice. Very smart choice. Very smart decision. So creating less garbage, consumptions of the water reducing, and the energy. All these things that what I think is a really, really, as an individual person, what we can do it. Yeah, these things. I don't know. That's the what I'm my thinking. Basically, in a part of the activism, I think if we that kind of energy comes based on I'm right, they're wrong, I think it's counterproductive. And engaging into planting tree and land rehabilitation, these are really, I think, the important things, that least things that we can do. And being very mindfulness into the uses of a natural resource such as water. I think this is, I think, the one thing very important part. And one thing is very important part, creating less garbage. Yes, that's the my key. What's what I think more mainly. Okay,
Thank you, Rinpoche.
thank you.
So if anyone would like to ask a question now, please remember to just click on the chat icon and type your question into the chat box, and we'll do our best to pose your question to Rinpoche. Please note that when you read your question, only the audio is recorded, not the video. And while we wait for the first question from the audience, I'll just start. And I really appreciate your speaking on this theme of changing the mind. And it reminds me of a quote from Einstein of you can't solve a problem with the same consciousness that created the problem. And I think that's sort of what I'm hearing from you. So just leading into the question, is His Holiness the Dalai Lama frequently talks about the need for Buddhists to see all 7 billion people on the planet as part of one global family. And in recent years, he's even spoken about the urgency of the climate crisis and suggested, I saw one place that he was quoted that it's appropriate for Buddhists to engage in nonviolent demonstrations to advocate for more immediate action. So I wondering if you could just speak about this, because this is such an important point. I mean, you've already covered it to some extent. Recognizing that we have a moral obligation to stop harm from suffering, and that simply praying to Buddha or reciting mantra won't stop CO2 from accumulating, or from social injustice happening in the world. Can you just kind of, maybe it's just restating what you said again, but I think this is one of the big dilemmas for Buddhists, is how to transform their meditation practice into action and channeling that energy that you talk about.
I think, the purpose of a demonstration in general is to create awareness. And sometimes demonstration goes, and it's so unfortunate until it doesn't become extreme, then nobody pay attention. Once it becomes too extreme, starting to breaking and things, then suddenly trying to pay attention. That's also a very unfortunate situation. So and I think the demonstration is I think it's a way to creating the awareness, The purpose of a demonstration is creating the awareness, that the awareness may lead to the change. Okay, so I think it need to have a bigger plan and a good bigger picture. I think, and it's not only one thing, protest only. The I think the protest is not the only the answer. What I'm trying to get is this one of the things. It can be one of the things, but if you look at whole thing, is a purpose to creating awareness and change. Awareness and change. To creating the awareness is the foundation to change. Change, healthy change, not force or demand change. So this awareness. So how we can create awareness is this the protest and the demonstrations is only the way to creating awareness, or there's another way to create awareness? I think we need to. So similar action like a protest or demonstration, but we have to have a multi-action which can create awareness. So I think that activism maybe becomes activism become frustrated because it's have only one path, sees only one path. Maybe that's my opinion, and it's just a protest. If the activism sees multi-path to creating ultimately change through awareness, then I think then there's more hope. If we see only one thing to creating the change through making that kind of way, I think that is a very powerful nature, but having multi-path to having the so 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 I think it need to be include individual also change, as an individual person, how I'm, from my point of view, as a, it may be if I to consider myself as a climate activism, just going to demonstration defines climate activism, or in my daily life, I consume less water, I create less garbage, I plant more tree, I have this to engaging into the rehabilitation of the land and so on and so forth. If I have all these things, then if I say I'm activism, so maybe as a, just going into protest and It's still good, but I think we have to have a uh, defining as an individual person as a climate activism is at least several layers. If you know, like if I'm doing these things in my philosophy, in my action, and how I walk, and then I'm really climate activism. So if I feel if as an individual person climate activism engage into all these different areas, there will be less frustration, but they will be more productive. Uh, at the same time, you are engaging into the multi-path, not only one path. To creating awareness becomes a foundation for the change. So, so I think So I think one thing I think yes, there can be spiritual element. I mean, like also like a protest not necessarily stops the CO2 and the climate and the mantra recitation doesn't stop the CO2. The going out there and protest also not necessarily stop the CO2. So so I think most important, I think everybody need to seeing more multi-path to way to creating awareness and then the change. And I think that's and then from the Buddhist perspective, there's no perfect world until until we are enlightened.
Thank you, Rinpoche, for that response.
Mhm,
I'm Iris. It's lovely to meet you, and I really appreciate you talking about awareness being one of the foundational keys to
mhm,
making any change on the personal level, on the community level, on the collective level, and also you're talking to that activism comes in many different forms.
mhm,
And we certainly need to transform our own mind and heart before we can act with wisdom in the world. So we have a couple of questions and we have a hand raised. And I would like to address the first question. Um, and I wonder, Sue, if you would like to unmute yourself and ask the question yourself. If not, I'm happy to ask it of Rinpoche.
Thank you so much for taking my question. Um, I my question is, how can we find compassion for our species, um, for all of the senseless suffering that we're causing to the sentient beings, to our own species, and destroying our planet? I'm an activist, and I work every day to try to raise awareness, um, and try to turn this around. But I suffer from almost debilitating depression, trying to find mindfulness and compassion for a species that feels like a cancer on the planet. And it's getting harder and harder to do this work because um, of the suffering I see that we're causing for the innocent sentient beings. And I want to be able to come to a place of equanimity and be able to find the compassion for the species, but
mhm.
it's been very hard for me to do.
Yes,
Thank
yes,
you.
yes. I feel, generally, we all have a vision and a goal in what we want. But if we, if we rejoice more into our action rather than, dreaming the goal, of course, we have to have the goal and what we want to see. But if we really rejoice, even like a small step we make it. I think that I think I think the one thing, if we able to engage, we're engaging into the action, but we barely rejoice for our action, and we really dream heavily of the gold, and that creates imbalance, and that creates some pressure, and that makes, as you're saying, like, like there's no hope. Okay, so I think now the question is how I can keep going, still how I can keep doing what I'm doing, and still be, like not self-disappointed. I think that rejoicing for even a simple action that we are oneself doing things in like anything we do. I think not so much about the result, but so much into the rejoicing for the action. Rejoicing for the action is the source of inspiration, I think. Only that happens quite often. We never acknowledge our own self, our own engagement. There's no acknowledgement and there's no rejoice. I think this is, I think, one things we're missing. And once that happens, and then I think there will be natural flow of our action without kind of push and pull. Ultimately, our journey, whatever journey we're taking, activism or whatever we're taking journey need to able to go through natural flow. And that natural flow creates through by inspiration, and that inspiration created by the rejoicing simple thing we do in a daily basis. If we put too much our energy into the end result, then we can fall into the push and pull. And that creates kind of like a difficulty. But at the same time, we cannot forget we have to have the end goal, the vision, which is really driven our energy. So I will, for me, in a way, what I'm saying is self-compassion. It's not the compassion about all sentient beings, but I think like there's a when we have not rejoice and a self-acknowledgement, even for the simple thing what we contribute, we are losing self-compassion. And that's, I think, the what is the fundamental, which self-compassion, all the word self-compassion is a little bit new for me. is I learned when I came to West. In a Buddhist classical text, we don't have this word self-compassion. But anyway, I understand the meaning. But I think the fundamentally, I will say, again, is go back to the activism. And when you say activism, one ethic should be a self-compassion. And once you have a self-compassion as it being a part of the activism, then I think everything can be flow very beautiful.
Thank
Yes,
you.
thank
Thank you, Rinpoche.
you.
I'd like to go to the next question that came into the chat. Alberto, would you like to unmute yourself and read your question, please?
Sure. Hi, everyone, and thank you, Rinpoche, for your wonderful teaching. And I don't really have a question. I was actually trying to make a couple of comments. One, that I'm really grateful for the opportunity uh, that Rinpoche and Jordan and his organizing committee have offered us to do some reflection on this topic. And my belief is that we really need a lot of this. We really need a lot of more conversations all over the world about the interconnection, about the interconnectedness of all of us. I'm thinking about, for example, in Puerto Rico over the past 3 years, we've had, as Rinpoche very well knows, we've had several major events like two Category 5 hurricanes, one after the other, major earthquake with aftershocks that are still being felt, uh, pandemics, And all of this in the midst of a economic situation that we've never faced before. And for some reason, we tend to think that those who were affected by the hurricanes have are like separate from those that are being affected by the earthquake, those that are being affected by pandemics. And I think we all need to realize that all these three events are connected. They're connected to the economy, they're connected to the problems with housing, problems with agriculture, problems with job offerings, problems with health, mental health. So until we realize that all of these are interconnected and not only are related only to Puerto Rico, but they're related to the rest of the world. And the rest of the world is connected with us and us to the rest of the world. And we're all connected to the cause of what's been experienced, and we're all connected to the possible solution of what is being experienced. So I think the word interconnected, when you speak about awareness, higher awareness, and mind training, I really feel like, boy, we really need to intensify our training and understanding of what it really means to be interconnected.
Yes.
That's all I had to say. And thank you, Rinpoche, and thank you, Jordan, and the committee for this opportunity.
Yeah. Well said, Alfredo. I think uh, I think ultimate problem is a lack of awareness of interdependent. I
Mhm.
think the ultimate this whole thing comes from is a lack of this awareness of interdependent. And so again, this is one thing is prerequisite that part of the education we need to having this kind of interdependent making any part of the this is a kind of like a education number 101. Everybody have to have a education of a interdependent, and rest of the our human education will build up based on this kind of interdependent understanding. I think that will be one solution. I think you know uh, so right now we are functioning opposite of interdependent. So we know went through that path what we learn. Now I think the only option, I think that even this, interdependence, I think this, if this awareness, this norm and the culture kind of we able to establish, I think this will be fundamental. Fundamental is something that uh, uh, so so I think that something have to come up through the creativity. Interdependent becomes kind of like a foundation to any culture we building up. uh, so yes, I think in the Puerto Rico is a really, really, really beautiful island, and the hurricane just coming one after one is went through lots of difficulty, and also like the because of the ocean rising, the Atlantic part, there's all the beach houses beautiful now it's slowly taking over by by the ocean. Sea is rising, and now also all of in some part of Florida also I heard that these things are going under the water. uh, so So I think, yeah, this um, long-term solution, education of interdependent. If we look for like 20 years and 30 years back in the future, one thing, fundamental foundation to this this external, internal, this kind of nature of interdependent, this kind of like a something foundation, if we don't establish, then basically I feel everything's a patching. This one problem comes, then we patch, when patch, and this we don't have the really good foundation ground. And only solution, I think, this kind of, if there's strong awareness of a culture, of a interdependency, then I think this will can becomes one of the foundation for answer, for solution. Yes,
Thank you,
thank you.
Rinpoche. Thank you so much. I see that Jiwa has his hand raised. And if you'd like to ask your question or make your comment, Jiwa.
Yes. Thank you, Rinpoche. I really appreciate your practical and ethical perspective on this crisis.
Mhm.
And I'd like to ask a more philosophical question, if you don't mind. In his encyclical Care for the World, Laudato Si, Pope Francis tried to start a conversation, a global conversation, about what it means to be human in the world today. In my life and in your life, we have reduced large fish in the ocean by 90%. We've reduced all the wildlife by 75%. It's starting to appear that we've reduced all the insects to 75%. And so many scientists say that we're living in an entirely new geologic era now, where humans are shaping the world, that we are actually creating a new world. And so I think that the Pope's question is really important. And I'm very curious to get your perspective, a Buddhist perspective, on what it means to be human in the world today.
There's a sad part being human. I think one part, the sad part, is caught into the wave, in a wave of this greedy, caught into the wave of this consuming culture. And that's the sad part. But I think the one hopeful part being human, we can make a change. There won't be another people comes from different planet and make a change, and we cannot expect that. And bodhisattvas comes and make a change, we cannot expect that. We are the only person who can make a difference. We human created, we create our mess, we have a responsibility, and we have a capability and responsibility. So I think and I think in a deep down, we as a human, I think we are a good person. I feel we are not bad person. We are just caught into the wave. We are just caught into this hurricane. Therefore, we are nervous. We are tense. Yes, but in a deep down, I think we humans are good. Once our true nature, once our mind is balanced and settled, we are much more open. we are narrow mind once we are tense, but that is not our not nature. That's not our foundation. So, so I think one thing is we need to create environment of this kind of this kind of very intensive environment is not healthy, and this is not becoming answer for anything. So we need to create this mind of ease, opened, so that we can shine more better. So I think so so what I'm saying is that fundamentally we human are not negative. I believe we might have something negative things, but that is a conditional. Fundamentally, foundationally, I think we humans are beautiful, very caring, very sharing, fundamentally sharing and caring. Uh, so, uh, but we have a long way to go. Yes, I think it's important for us if we identify from strongly from negative point of view, then I think it's not going to help for the problem. So I think the one important part, we as a part of the human species, in the deep down, if we don't acknowledge as we are as a positive person, we are, if we're not positive person identifying, then we don't see capability for positive, and only we able to see negative, and that is a counterproductive. So I think it's a, yes, we have a, because of a, we're caught into this wave of a consuming, wave of a greedy. It's not individually, collectively also. So yes, is that conditional, but the deep down, we human being are, I think, I really believe you deep down, I think we are really good. We are wonderful person. We are really humanity. We are opening. We become close just to condition. And that's, I think, is a really, really, really important to making change for future. If we don't see ourselves as a positive, there's some kind of positive, then I think it's a difficulty. And I mean, like uh, I mean, like the Portland today we have sun, but most of the time there's a kind of overcast. Time to time the sun can shine. Same like we human. Time to time our humanity, human, the openness can be shine. But the, the majority of the time it's kind of overcast by greedy and so on and so forth. But in the behind the cloud there's a blue sky. Yes, yes,
Thank you, Rinpoche.
yes. Thank
We have one further question from Linda, doctor, and if you'd like to unmute yourself and read your question. Actually, Linda has two questions. Are you able to unmute yourself?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Rinpoche, and thank you to the organizers. I will skip my first question because I think it was already addressed. My second question is about the younger generation. You said that it is important that there is more, it's good that there's more awareness in the younger generation about what is happening. What I see happening in this group is that many of them, they make the decision never to become parents.
Mhm.
Because they feel that they have to save a sentient being from going through all the suffering that we might be facing.
Mhm.
Also, they don't want to contribute to creating more pollution by putting an extra human being on the planet. So I was wondering, you spoke a lot about also seeing the positive side of being human and to
Mhm.
rejoice the good actions that we are taking to counter this. But when it comes to this issue, it's quite a decision, and I was
Yes, yes,
if
yes.
you could speak to that, how you look at this.
I think, as I'm going back to this statement by Samdong Rinpoche, I think where he quoting, this planet have enough resource and to provide 6 billion people or 7 billion people, but it don't have a greed of one person. So here, I think the you know I mean, like in the world, there is a control of a population, even like a China. There's sometimes they're trying to do the controlling the population, and I mean, like right now, what happening? The lifestyle, the way we living, way we consuming, and then one more contribution of a consumer can be difficulty. So I think. Um, I think like general speaking, individual choice. I think this is based on based on a pure awareness. Okay, this is kind of things. I think is that there's totally right, but also I think there is a something balance can be created, and right now in the individual young generation choosing not having children and not contributing more another. I think that's individual choice, and I think I support. This good. I think that's good, but still I think um, it is a very complex. It is. I think it need to be worked from many different level. Many different level. I think immediate choice, whatever they're making, I think is a really good based on not contributing for the more consumer. Uh, but I'm not sure it will be long-term solution. I think fundamentally, I think that we human problem started when we're trying to control everything. We're trying to control the nature. We're trying to control. So if we leave everything much more into the natural process, even the population or whatever, if we the environment and I think so fundamentally, if in the long vision, I think somehow can we less human interference into the nature, natural. I mean, there's some kind of balance if we able to live that, and then I think we'll be ideally. So I think we the problem with the human, we are control freak. We wants to control everything. Yeah, so I think more natural, natural. I think natural state of even in Buddhist teaching, natural state of awareness, natural state. Otherwise, it is so much influence. So, uh, so again, I think there's a holistic whole together, and then creating a natural state of existence, coexistence, harmonious existence. All these things are like, I think one was starting to human interference and controlling. then I think the coexistence, harmonious existence can be troubled. So bigger picture, I think this kind of like a natural existence, able to live in a natural state of a environment, natural, like less human interference. Uh, I think we human may be trying to receive from the natural, not that we human trying to control the natural. So I think that's the approach. If we change, I think maybe whatever nature gives, we'll take it. Not that we want to mass product from the natural. So that's, I think, yeah. So I think something, natural, coexistence is kind of natural existence. Yes, it's a good question. It's a complex. It's not easy solution. I think end of the day, I think, as I mentioned earlier, because I pay attention lots of with the water and I rejoice water. So like what I'm doing, but sometimes when the people not pay attention too much water, I get a little bit kind of judgmental. Then I need to pay attention myself. So so yes, this kind of ultimately is a complex situation. The way of moving forward is a rejoicing our own simple action that we can do it. I think that's the way to move forward. Okay.
Thank you,
Okay.
Rinpoche.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rinpoche. I appreciate you acknowledging how complex
Yeah.
our challenges are.
Yeah.
We have, for our last question, we have a hand raised. Sue, are you able to unmute yourself and ask your question? And this will be our last question.
Yeah. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Hi, Rinpoche.
Hi, Sue.
I was wondering about a previous question from Sue, the other Sue, and how she said it's frustrating. How can she be compassionate? You said self-compassion because she works really, it sounded to me anyway, like she works hard and then she doesn't get results. And I was wondering about what is the role of planting seeds? Like sometimes I work hard at something, it doesn't seem like something is happening. But what is that like planting? Can you just talk a little bit about sometimes planting seeds that we don't see grown right away?
Mm-hmm.
And is that worthwhile to do that?
Mm-hmm. I think that kind of, I think it's a natural this kind of like some level of expectation, want to see the change. I think there is a story. I mean, like one of the ancient master called Asanga, and he went to retreat for 12 years. And after every 3 years, he gets so disappointed and he give up the retreat. And he come out and he sees simple things, not big teaching or nothing. There's something simple change by simple action. And that becomes source of inspiration. He will go back to 3 years again. Then nothing happens. He get frustrated and he's okay, I'll get out. He just close they come back. And he sees simple things by having simple change. And then so I think these are very important we have to learn, because we want to see big change with a with a small effort. So we want to see the big change, I think, and we're not able to generate inspiration by the simple action. So there's this different. We want to see big change. We're not able to generate energy by the simple action. So these are two extreme that we are falling. So I think somehow we need to train our, that's I'm saying, like rejoicing for everything is that training to have simple things, due to COVID situation, now we have to appreciate simple things. So simple things, able to rejoice and cultivate inspiration, and not necessarily looking for the big change. And then big change will come. I think if we chase the big change and we're not able to cultivate the inspiration by simple action, and then I think uh, this is lots of times happens even a spiritual journey. So one thing we need to come able to generate inspiration through simple action. So this Asanga, he went through back and forth like every 3 years he get out and he frustrated and he go. He sees something simple things and inspired in inspiration, and they take that inspiration go back. I think there is this. Somehow, unfortunately, we human not wants to get inspiration, something big and elaboration and a kind of dramatic. We're not able to get that kind of inspiration by simple things. So I think that's uh, like a will be. I think uh, I think rejoicing for simple things, appreciating for simple things, inspiring for simple things. And that becomes, I think, like the oxygen for our life. Okay. Thank you so much. That's good.
Thank you, Rinpoche.
Thank you.
And just before we close, I just want to let people know that this is the first in a series. So please visit our website, dharmafriendship.org. And next event is March 27th at 10 in the morning. Rinpoche, would you like to share a dedication for closing? And
Sure. Chanju semjo Rinpoche magi banamgi gyujin geba nyamba meba yankone kondu pewar shu pama zemjen tamje dedan dengyujin yendro tamje dadu tongwa dang chanju semba kana su teda gungi melam drugyuru ji jambe bawu chidar kemba dang kundu sangbo teyan deshi Teda gungi jesu dalu jengewan dida tamje rabdu ngo tuzum shekwe gyawa ngo wa gangla chodo nga ba den da jengewen zawan den gungyang sangbu chuche rabdu ngo war gi. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, Jordan. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
thank you, Rinpoche.
Thank you.